at Talladega. Now it's 15 races later, 14 races later to find ourselves out here in the deserts of Phoenix. Just a few seconds remaining on the qualifying. Everybody has made their laps or chosen to start their race early. And the grid is ready to go through, taking our Jam Printing and Promotions Pole Award tonight. It is none other than the Jam Printing and Promotions truck driver, the boss man, 07, Patrick Dravick, setting the pole tonight. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They've been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning, local and veteran certified. When they do well, they do good in the community. And what a night for the 07 to set the pole here on championship night. Starting to his outside, it's the 77 of Mark Whitley in P2, just 4/100ths of a second behind Patrick Dravick. In row number 2, it's our two other championship contending drivers. The 24 of Levi McCarty will start on the inside with the 27 of Jake Ellingson on the outside. Row number 3, the 7 of Charles Aber will roll off next to the 36 of George Jewell. In P7, the 14 of Chance Taylor will start on the inside line with the 64 of Matt Knights to his outside. And last but not least, in the top 10, it's the 99 of Brandon Wallace next to the 37 of Michael Seymour. Only one driver remaining, 11 cars on the field. The 75 of Charles Phelps will round out our field. Samuel Yosef, our race controller on the night, as well as, I believe, Jamie Libke running race control side by side. Got two of them up there in the booth for this important race here. But the small car count is going to make it very easy up there. A lot of good driving should be on display tonight. So our drivers are now making their way off of pit road. Pace truck is away. A night race here in Phoenix will certainly keep things interesting. Weather on the night will be very, very nice. Only 73 degrees ambient air temperature with 75 tire sets available over the wall with 2 green-white checkers. And here we go. For the first time tonight, we are green at Phoenix for championship here at SAVE22. Already McCarty cutting it down to the bottom of the track using the apron. That is completely legal here at Phoenix. That dog leg can be cut lap after lap at the cost of the tires. But taking away the lead immediately, the 77 of Mark Whitley using that outside to his advantage. Gets around the 07 of Patrick Dravick, now back to P2.
Levi McCarty there in that third position. He was taking a look inside of Patrick Dravick, not able to complete the pass. And, you know, Logan, we'll get into this a little bit more here as the race goes on, but Levi McCarty, the last time that these trucks ran at Phoenix was 2 seasons ago. He absolutely dominated that race, leading 100 of 115 laps, bringing home the win. So that might be a safe bet for somebody if you're looking for a pick for the championship here this evening.
Well, if we're going to go ahead and talk about it, we might as well talk about it. Pre-race, we had a little conversation. And, you know, I think history may repeat itself. I'm going to take that 24 of McCarty and see what he can do here in season number 10. Who about you, Mr. Daniel Cunningham? Who do you have your eyes on?
You know, it might be the low-hanging fruit, but give me the driver of the 77, Mark Whitley. He's been the dominant driver on the season, leads the series and wins more than double of the next closest driver. I think he's going to be the one to get it done. As you can see, McCarty actually got into the wall just a little bit there over in turns 1 and 2, trying to run that higher groove, able to keep it pointed in the right direction. Our championship 4 is still running 1 through 4 right now.
I would say a lot of these drivers outside of the championship four will very much respect the guys that are going for this championship, giving them plenty of room, allowing them to race this race as much as possible. As George Jewell holding on to the 5th place spot, currently back 0.8 of a second from the top 4. So it's already starting to develop out that way. You have to think about strategy a little bit. We talked about the fuel run being roughly 70 to 75 laps here, so we know it's a one-stop race for sure. But do we take tires? Do we risk that, potential caution flag to fall with such a short field and try to go for a earlier pit? As Patrick Drabick nearly gets into the back of the 77. You saw the back end step out a little bit there as he was starting to exit turn number 2. Down the backstretch in control, though. He's going to stay extremely close to that 77 Whitley. As Drabick is going to cut it way further down. You can see he nearly gets to that pit exit cone.
Yeah, you mentioned it early on with that initial start of the race. All of that paved area down there, that is in play. There is no out of bounds at this track. Even in real life in the Truck Series Championship here, we saw drivers utilizing that dog leg, utilizing the apron in turns 1 and 2. Also, we saw them going 5, 6 wide. It was, it's intense racing here. And you always see that at Phoenix just with the lack of out of bounds. And you can see right here, Patrick Drabick, he is putting a ton of pressure on Mark Whitley. He is right on the tailgate, and especially over in turns 1 and 2. Drabick just looks like he is so much faster on that end of the track. But now in 3 and 4, trying to set him up. He is to the inside of the 77. Oh, contact! Oh, they make contact, but they save it. And that was a great job also by McCarty to avoid Patrick Drabick. Really nowhere for McCarty to go there. He was just hoping and praying that Pat was able to hang on to that truck. And they are able to continue on, but that is setting the tone early here. It is going to be elbows out for this championship.
Take it back here on the V-Speed Instant Replay. Get another look at this contact between the 77 and the 07. Drabick dives it down to the inside, nearly gets to the driver door of Mark Whitley. Both of them push up the track. Whitley turns it down just a little bit. And the 07, wow, just what a save there. He was very much sideways, but luckily, that portion of the track is the widest that you're going to see. Great on board there with Levi McCarty. And wow, look at that adjustment from the 24. Able to recognize that the 07 could have very well ended up sideways in front of him, but took it all the way down to that outside pit wall, putting his truck at risk as well. But luckily, both drivers come away clean. Back here on the live shot, McCarty was able to take over that position after the slide from Drabick. We saw it live last time, but it's official now. He's about 0.3 of a second up the road from the 07. Looking back a little bit further here, the 75 of Chuck Peg Lake Feltz battling with the 7 of Charles Aber. Just back here at the back half of the top 10 with Michael Seymour very close behind as well. So willing to take advantage of either one of these drivers making a mistake.
Yeah, good little battle here for position. And you see a couple of those trucks, Chuck Feltz as well as Charles Aber, both running those SAVE22 colors on the hood of their trucks. And, that's the title sponsor that we've got here this evening. Chuck also giving us the standard front row ticket to the gun show there with his webcam on. Appreciate Chuck, throwing that view out there for us every single week. Always one of those that does load in with the webcam on. Taking a look here on board as well with the 77 of Chuck. And I thought at first maybe he was giving us a little wave there, but I think he's just trying to get his hand to relax just a little bit there, Logan.
I would have to say so. And if I recall correctly, those fancy gloves that Chuck's is rocking there also came from another one of the fantastic sponsors here at Goat Locker, Glove Station. So make sure you check out Glove Station for all of your hand needs. You got to have protection. They offer more than just gloves as well. At Glove Station, we are committed to providing quality gloves and protective gear for a wide range of your daily activities and jobs. From tinkering on home DIYs to working in industrial environments and everything in between, we've got you covered. With endless amounts of safety products on the market, they want to make it effortless for you to find the right protection for your needs. Levi McCarty now putting some pressure on Mark Whitley for that number 1 spot. Of course, you mentioned it earlier. Great success 2 seasons ago here at Phoenix. It wasn't the championship race, and unfortunately, McCarty did not end up being the championship winning driver that season, but he is very much in contention tonight. He is all over that tailgate of Mark Whitley.
Yeah, and he is doing something that I haven't really seen a lot of other drivers doing. He's utilizing that really high groove over in 1 and 2. Doesn't quite work as well for him over in turns 3 and 4, but you can see it here from the onboard. Now, Mark Whitley may be playing a little bit of, I don't want to say mirror driving, but you look and you see somebody get such a huge run by doing that behind you. You almost got to move up and try to take the lane away from him, not let him have that clean racetrack up there. See, the advantage that time was not quite as big over in turns 1 and 2, but McCarty making up quite a bit of ground here in 3 and 4. And he is starting to heat up the back of that 77, put some pressure on. Oh, as he gets into the wall. That's the only danger of running that high groove. If you overdrive it just a little bit, you're going to open up the door and make a mistake. And he did right there, but it doesn't seem like it's hurting him all that much. I mean, you've seen him do it a couple of times here already, and still, it's not really costing him a ton of time, but he's definitely playing with fire if he damages that truck by doing so.
What I like to see here is the times on the board as we take a look with the driver camera and the onboard of Jacob Ellingson. Running P4 right now, but last time by was the fastest driver out of these top 4, so it could be that he's saved enough tire to start challenging up here a little bit. The strategy could be at play for the 27. Keep an eye on Ellingson as this race progresses. Another kind of wipe a little bit of relief of the hands. It's going to be very important here. These turns, man, they are tough at Phoenix.
Yeah, they really are, and especially with both ends of the track just driving so differently. 1 and 2, a little bit wider turn, a little bit more sweeping. You can kind of carry in a little bit more momentum. 3 and 4 has more banking, but it's just such a sharp turn, and then you're also trying to set up to cut that dog leg on corner exit. So it's definitely a battle all night. I mean, it's not quite to the extent of, say, like a Darlington or something to that effect where, you're just dialed in all night, but it's definitely a little bit more of a challenge when both ends are just that drastically different.
And I want to point something out here as these drivers will make their way down to the apron. Look at how just treacherous that transition is from the racing surface down to the apron. It's not as bad coming back up on the track, but that can very easily upset the truck, the suspension, and completely throw it sideways. So these drivers will have to be extremely careful as we get to the end of this run. A little bit of a slide there from Drabick out of turn 2. Ellingson shoots down to the inside. He's going to have the advantage rolling through turn 3, and he comes out about 3 car lengths ahead of Drabick as they make their way back down to the dog leg. But he's got a lot of work to do right now to catch back up to Levi McCarty. A half second separates second and third. 0.3 of a second separate our top 2. But all of these drivers right within about a second and a quarter of each other as they have worked away from the rest of the field. George Jules still holding on to that 5th spot with 2.5 seconds up the road, forward and backwards before he's got some competition around that 36 machine.
Yeah, the last time around, Mark Whitley was just a touch faster than Levi McCarty trying to chase him down, but still pretty even on the lap times between the top 3 there, all within about 1/10 of a second of one another. The one interesting thing I'm looking at here is the lap times themselves overall have fallen off by about 9/10 of a second here, just 25 laps into the race. So going to be a little bit interesting to see who decides to pit when. If you try to undercut, what you do with that. But as you can see here, that is the 14 of Chance Taylor. He is on pit lane. Also does have a black flag penalty. Believe it may have been for speeding on entry, but he is coming down to the attention of his pit crew early on here.
Taking it back, looking at the replay here on my end, kind of looks like the 14 got a little loose in turn 2. Tried to bring it down to the apron. I think it might have been more of a hardware issue. now that I look at it. It's that 14 just kind of took a constant left-hand turn and almost into the pit wall on the inside on the entry. So unfortunate circumstances for the 14 team, as they will have to serve that black flag, and they will go at least 2 laps down here. So that should be a 40 to 45 second hold in the pit box. Chuck Phelps and Michael Seymour have swapped positions at the back of the field now. Seymour up to the 9th position, Phelps in 10th. Charles Abert holds the 8th spot with Matt Knights just ahead. Brandon Wallace in P6 with George Schull running P5 still. Of course, our top 4 have not changed positions in a while, other than Ellingson getting around Patrick Dravick. And it looks like we've got some, gear changing happening here on the racetrack. Very early for that downshift to 3rd gear in turns 1 and 2. So Whitley could be at a point where, the next time that he comes down pit road, the strategy might have to change. Let's take a look here at McCarty's telemetry, see if he's doing the same following the 77 machine. Does not look like he is.
And, it's interesting, too, with that downshift. The last couple of laps, I noticed that Mark Whitley was really, really squirrely on corner exit. I mean, just the back end of the truck really stepping out on him. And that's just really uncharacteristic of how Whitley drives in general. So I was kind of wondering, maybe is this something to do with the recent aero changes to the truck, that the handling is going away? But I think it's just that downshift. It's just putting a little too much power to the rear tires, just making it a little bit harder to hang on to. And that has allowed Levi McCarty to really close up and start to put some pressure here on the back of that 77 truck.
Whitley will be able to get off of the corner just a little bit better if he can control that spin, but you're really putting those rear tires at risk. You don't want to get too much heat in them. Of course, the night race here helps with that effect, but we're up to 77 degrees on the track surface now. Is another slide from Whitley. This opens up the door. Big block down to the bottom. My goodness, Whitley wants that position. And McCarty gets the stung.
And here comes Ellingson. That's going to open the door for the 27 to close right in on this battle. How bad do you want a championship? Throwing a block on lap 30, using the bumper on lap 30, and that has put our top 3 right under a blanket with one another.
Daniel R2 picks getting extremely aggressive early on in this race. Now the 27 gets around the 24. McCarty, Ellingson up to P2, and he nearly gets to the back bumper of McCarty as well. Whitley as well. Has to back it off just a little bit to fully make the corner. The 24 McCarty is going to dive it down way lower, about a truck length down to the bottom. As the 77 Whitley to the wall. Does it open up the door for Ellingson? Not enough. He falls back in line.
One thing I'm going to tell you right now, Logan, that just set the tone for me. That set the tone for the race. We are out here racing for a championship. Mark Whitley has shown we're throwing blocks. We're able to use the bumper. If you're Levi McCarty, he has set that tone early on. Even though we've been talking about there are only 11 trucks in the field, a little bit lighter, it is not short on action by any stretch. And man, if you're throwing moves like that here with still 80 laps to go, what do you think they're going to be trying to do when we get down into the pay window here at the end?
All bets are off once we get to, I would say, the last 25 laps is where I would expect things to really start to heat up. But you never know. If we're throwing blocks and using the bumper this early on in the race, things could get hectic quickly. All it takes is just one mistake, and it could be a race ender for a couple of these drivers. We're going to hope that does not happen. Right now, Whitley still holds on to P1. Ellingson moved up to P2. Levi McCarty holding on to that 3rd podium spot, and Patrick Dravick has fallen off about 0.6 of a second behind our top 3. He's got that 14 of Chance Taylor right behind. Draft doesn't really play a factor here at Phoenix, being that it is only that 1 mile in length, but you can get a little extra mile an hour coming down the backstretch if you can really get hooked up. I don't think that Chance Taylor is going to take that risk with a championship driver, but you never know. There could be some communication going on from team to team to try to get the 07 back up into this fight. Patrick Drabick could very well also be content with holding on to this spot and letting these top three battle, burn up their tires, and maybe make an easy pass whenever the time comes. You never know what's going on through the head of the 07 of Drabick.
Yeah, he might be in the catbird seat right now. I mean, the way that these top three are just racing each other, I mean, you just have to beat the other guys that you're racing against. You don't necessarily have to go out and win. And if they're still throwing bumpers and throwing blocks, they might just take themselves out and open the door for Pat to get up there and steal this one from him. So I don't hate where he's at right now. He's basically just back here cruising, logging some laps, and just keeping himself out of trouble right now.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So it looks like some contact is happening between our leaders again. We'll take it back here on a replay. Have a look at what's happened between Whitley and Ellingson this time. McCarty still back behind the 27 machine, coming down the back stretch. Whitley will kind of almost enter high. Ellingson takes it down to the line. It looks like Whitley got a little loose there, and Ellingson just so close, might have put the bumper to him just a touch, but they both keep it straight. That did nearly open up the door for McCarty to challenge around the outside, but we're going to hold position here. Man, this is fierce right now. I was not expecting this so early on in the race to be in the first half. As looked like Ellingson was going to take a look again to the inside, but Whitley shuts the door. The 27 holds it down lower. He's going to hit the apron first out of this group of three. Nearly side by side as Whitley stayed up high. There it is, side by side into turn 1 and 2. Whitley slides a little bit in the middle. Can Ellingson capitalize? Comes out just behind, nearly got into the left rear.
And right now, Logan, I think that Mark Whitley knows he has to keep the lead of this race. He has got to keep that clean air and track position. It looks like Ellingson and McCarty are both faster than him. They just can't quite complete the pass to get around him. And I feel like he knows that too. And Whitley knows if they get out there in clean air, they might just pull away from him, which is why you're seeing them race so hard, so early on to keep that all-important track position.
I have to agree with you 100%. I believe that 77 is at the point where the tires will be detrimental if he gets into that dirty air. It could be a very quick fall off for Whitley if either one of these drivers get around. So that defense that he's playing is his best hope at the current moment. Once this pit cycle rolls through, Ellingson nearly gets back to the back bumper again.
This is the best run that Ellingson's had. Is he going to be able to complete it? He dives it down into turns 3 and 4. Almost contact again. Whitley holding that top groove, carries the momentum. He's going to be able to hang on to the lead. But now he's just about going to have 2 lanes to block as McCarty's starting to close back in as well.
You have to worry about the temperature in the tire if you're going to challenge multiple times, multiple laps back to back like Ellingson. It'd almost be potentially worth it to let the 24 McCarty get back around and put the pressure on Whitley again. But, you know, again, that track position is going to be important with such a short field. As we're rolling around, we're about 6 or 7 seconds away from seeing some potential lap traffic. As we saw from that camera shot, Chuck Phelps just up the road. Oh, we've got our first pit cycle here. The 07. Drabick is going to bring it down extremely early. We'll see. This is the window where he can make it on fuel to the end, but tires, I think, will certainly bring us back down at least one more time tonight.
Yeah, and you know what? I like this strategy out of them. The lap times have fallen off by almost 1.5 seconds from the fastest lap of the race. Pat is in that window where he can undercut by just a few laps, maybe get that track position that he needs. And then from there, you never know how it's going to play out. But, you know, I think this is going to be the only stop they make for the night. I don't think if this goes green that we will see them back down pit lane. You can see there George Jewell in the 36. He is coming down for his scheduled green flag stop here. Now the question is, if you're Mark Whitley, Jake Ellingson, Levi McCarty, when do you decide to come down pit road? We are still about 8 laps away from the halfway point. Oh no, and a caution is out. That is going to be the last thing that Patrick Drabick wanted to see. Oh no, he was the one that brought it out. Drabick around on the cold tires out of the pits. And that is going to put us under caution here for the first time this evening as we take a look on the V-Speed instant replay. This was his out lap. And yeah, just cold tires, puts the power down, and really hard contact into the inside wall for the 07. And, you know, it doesn't take him out of the race, but that is going to severely damage any hope that he has of winning the championship here this evening.
There's going to be quite a bit of time spent in the pit box to get that truck back to full health. You have to wonder, you know, just a little bit too early on the throttle. Was it the cold tires just being a cold tire and not having enough grip? But George Jewell, he's going to benefit from this as he was just put a lap down on that pit cycle, but he will be the lucky dog recipient here and make his way back up to the lead lap. Drabick will fall back to P10 here, scored 1 lap down with only Chance Taylor behind, scored 2 laps down after his issue where he went down pit road and picked up the black flag. The 77 of Whitley will lead the field into the pit lane, followed by Ellingson, McCarty, Brandon Wallace. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the whole field is showing black flags right now. I do not know what exactly caused that, but the top 5, Whitley, Ellingson, McCarty, Wallace, and Matt Knights, all showing black flags. I think that's some kind of iRacing glitch, and I believe Race Control has indeed cleared those penalties. The only thing that I can think that it may have been, Logan, is maybe just depending on where Pat was supposed to be lined up, if he wasn't able to get caught up in time, that may have triggered a passing under yellow.
I think if I heard correctly over race communication, is the battle off of pit road. It will go to Whitley. Ellingson holds on to that second spot. McCarty will come out behind them. But if I heard correctly over the race communication, that was some weird incident there that iRacing had shown an open pit for our drivers, but as they entered, it closed. So yeah, the race control team will take care of that as they already have. This kind of changes things for the running order. I don't know how they're going to settle that, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll find out here behind the scenes, but we'll be right back with championship action at Phoenix.
Superior quality, ultimate protection, and the highest level of craftsmanship. We make our gloves for the hard worker that wakes up every morning and gives 110%. You deserve the highest quality protective gear that's going to work for you, day in, day out. We know it can be tough deciding what companies to trust for your hard-earned money. It's all in our name. We've mastered our craft to help you master yours. We make our gloves rugged, durable, and designed for you. Whatever the job is, we have you covered. We are your glove station.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. InVets can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. InVets can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about InVets, visit us at invets.org today.
JS Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here at Phoenix. Our fantastic race controllers have figured things out. A big shout out to Samuel Joseph and Jamie Libke. That was a very odd situation. A little bit of shenanigans behind the scenes here to get it situated, but we will have an extra caution on the board at the end of the race. Just don't mind that. It's how it got fixed, but they handled it very, very well. So just want to give a big thanks to our race controllers tonight for taking care of business up there. Now, Daniel, while we had our break, we were talking a little bit about these restarts here at Phoenix. Why don't you go ahead and fill in the fans as to what we were having that conversation about?
Yeah, so Phoenix is just really unique because of the dog leg that you're trying to cut. So one thing that these drivers are going to have to be really, really aware of is not changing lanes before the start-finish line. It is a goat locker rule. You have to maintain your lane until you hit that start-finish line. And we even saw it during the next-gen race here 2 weeks ago. Patrick Dravick was the control car, the race leader. He got clear of both lanes, but he moved up in front of the outside lane before the start-finish line and was tagged with a restart violation. So easier to do at Phoenix than probably any other track on the schedule. So be really curious to see how these drivers navigate that here on this upcoming restart.
We're going to find out how they plan to handle it themselves as the 64 of Matt Knight's having some connection issues right now. You can see him blinking in and out of existence. But the restart zone coming up. Mark Whitley in control on the bottom. Gets a great jump. So does Levi McCarty. And that's going to move the 24 back up to P2. Jake Ellingson back to P3. Brandon Wallace holds on to that fourth spot just behind him with Chuck Phelps in P5 as Patrick Dravick looking to make a move on the inside. He's going to get by that 75 machine. Back on the lead lap. Lucky circumstances for the 07 there with the issues that we had, but he's back on the lead lap and back on the charge towards the front of the field. Just one more car separates him. The 99 of Brandon Wallace.
Yeah, shout out to Brandon Wallace. You know, he's not out there racing for the championship tonight. I know he's listening to the broadcast and he's probably thinking, good Lord, Daniel, quit talking about me before you end up putting the commentator curse on me. But there he is running in. He's nodding his head in agreement. I'm pretty sure he just heard what I said. But there he is running in the number 4 position, giving us a little hand gesture. Thanks for keeping that G rated here this evening. And yeah, out there driving one-handed, which might explain why we say the 99 is terrible all the time, because he's only got one hand on the wheel.
It's a thumbs up. It's in agreement, so it's unanimous. Oh man, that's a bold move to go one-handed through that transition of the dog leg as well. That's one of the most difficult portion. Actually, it would be the most difficult portion of the track, even with two hands. So, you know, big shout out to Wallace there for being able to control that thing while making sure the fans get what they deserve here. Peace sign up in the air. Back on board here with the 07 Drabic as he moves to the inside, nearly slides up to the 99. He's going to get around Brandon Wallace back to P4. Now it's a 1 second drive back to our top three. For Drabic is in contention for a podium finish and a championship. We're separated up front just a little bit between second and third, but Levi McCarty staying hot on the tail of Mark Whitley here, applying that pressure already after this restart. We've made it to the back half of the race now. Expect the heat to pick up even more from here. We'll see how they handle it, as the temperature on the track has come back down from 77 degrees on the surface to just 75. We've lost 1 degree of ambient air temperature. Only 72 degrees here in Phoenix tonight for the SAVE22 Truck Series.
Yeah, and you know, the one thing I'm going to be really curious to see here is, what did you learn from that first run? It really looked like Mark Whitley was starting to struggle with the handling of that truck. It looked like McCarty and Ellingson were definitely faster at the end of that run. So what did he learn from that first green flag run? Because this one, if it goes green to the end, you're going to have more laps on the tires than we did on that first stint. So just really want to see how these drivers adjust, who makes those correct adjustments, and that could end up being the difference of who wins this championship.
I really can't wait to see if the aggression level continues to pick up like we saw as McCarty comes out wide out of turn 4, touches the wall just a little bit. Saw the puff of smoke there as they were getting close to the start-finish line. It's not going to do any damage to the 24 machine, but he will have to keep in mind that the more he scrapes that wall, the more likely he is to do damage. So the line will likely be modified, but you still have to put down a good drive to catch back up to the race leader. As you can see, you know, the 24 willing to take it further down on the apron, cutting that dog leg than Mark Whitley is. You have to think, does that help at all? Last time by, it didn't. Mark Whitley with a 27.556 on the lap time. Levi McCarty 27.630.
Yeah, we'll see what the speeds are this time at the line, and just about identical, within 7/100ths of a second the last time by between the top, not even just the top two, but between the top three, with Ellingson and Whitley actually running identical lap times. So right now it seems like they're just maybe kind of riding, and you know, it seemed like once Levi McCarty got into about that 20 lap range or so, where he could really start running that top cruise, especially over in 1 and 2, that's where his long run pace was showing out at that point. But a little bit further back, you saw there was a really good battle for position between about 5 different drivers here. And you can see Chuck Phelps is in there, Seymour is in there, Abert is in there. So a lot of different drivers still out here trying to get those good finishes to round out the season, maybe carry a little bit of momentum into next season. As you can see here, Michael Seymour actually started to take a look to the inside of Chuck Phelps.
Looks like the 64 of Matt Knights has resolved that connection issue as he rejoins the field. 11 laps down now for Knights. A little bit of a link there still yet, so maybe not quite 100% on the connection to the server here tonight. See just how long he can hang around here. Hope to see him take it to the finish as McCarty more contact with the wall out of turn 4. That's going to allow Ellingson to grab a couple tenths here and there. But the 07 of Drabic, after the contact with the wall, bringing out that first caution of the night, you know, he's fallen back quite a bit. He's losing pace to our leaders, but it's so hard to say. He could be just backing off the pace a little bit as that front right doesn't look too heavily damaged. But you have to wonder about the tie rods here, the suspension damage, the stuff we can't see. How well is that truck turning on the 07? It's only going to be time to tell. If he starts to pick up speed later in this run, I'll double down and say that he's been saving since the start, or since this restart.
Well, and even more so than just even the suspension or the aero damage, you've also got to wonder about engine damage. That was a pretty square hit to the front of the truck, and you can see he still visually has just a little bit of damage on the front of it. But these trucks are kind of notorious for the engine damage. Sometimes it's just the weirdest hits, the weirdest angles that will give you that engine damage and put you down on horsepower. So would have to think, with as square as that was to the front, probably a little bit of power loss there as well.
But again, not in a bad spot by any means to be in P4 and watching these top three race as hard as they have been. If we start to get situations of more contact, again, Drabic is right in the catbird seat. He can very easily make his way around all three of these drivers if something was to happen. And we're going to hope not, as the racing has been phenomenal so far tonight. Levi McCarty starting to make a charge back up to Mark Whitley. Separated by 0.2 of a second, as McCarty will have to lift coming out of turn 4. Kept it off the wall that time. He's going to lose 0.3 of a second from having to do so.
Yeah, about the worst possible spot that he would have to lift there as far as trying to carry that momentum down the front straightaway. So probably in his best interest here to maybe back it off, cool the tires down just a little bit, get up and try to make another run at it. We've seen that long run pace that he's had throughout the evening, and even still, he's already starting to pull that gap back just a little bit. He's up over 0.6 of a second, got it down to just about 0.5 here as they get into turns 1 and 2. So he's got plenty of pace in that 24. It's just a matter of being patient, not overheating the tires, and keeping as much grip as possible in that truck.
Andy Carnes in the YouTube chat. He's got his prediction in, and I'm going to read it word for word here. The 24 will close the gap. The 77 will get loose. They will get together, and the 27 wins the championship. Calling his shot now on lap 74. It's in the records, Andy. You can't go back. Don't be trying to edit that comment later on.
Well, Logan, I think that evens everything up because you picked McCarty, I picked Whitley. Our producer, Bradley Cooper, I believe he picked Patrick Drabic. And now we've got the YouTube chat picking Jake Ellis. So I think, using a football term, I think the penalty's offset as far as curses at this point, and we're just on even footing now.
I'm okay with that. Penalties reset, replay down. We're all right with that. So we're going to keep an eye up here at the front of the field, but the battle is still fierce. Back at the back, Michael Seymour, George Jewell, Charles Feltz, and Chuck Feltz, all battling for that 6th position right now. All separated by about 0.6 of a second there. So we'll keep an eye on that up here in the booth, see if anything develops, but cameras will keep it up here at the front for a while. Never mind, we're going to take it to the battle because we do have a move for position. Michael Seymour through the inside, gets past George Jewell, and that's going to pull Chuck Feltz through as well. So Jewell loses 2 spots back to P8. As Charles Abert also going to be able to take advantage. Now Jewell back to P9. Not too sure what's happened to the 36 there. He's just willing to let these guys go by. Felt the pressure being put on from behind, but the 36 loses 3 spots in the matter of 1 lap.
And a little bit of damage, it looks like, on the front of that 36 truck as well. Looks similar to the front end of Patrick Drabic's truck. I actually just noticed that with the great camera work there from our production truck. So maybe just struggling with overall grip a little bit on that 36. And yeah, you can even kind of see it, the right front tire sticking out just ever so slightly from behind that fender. So probably a little bit of aero damage on that machine as well.
Well, Daniel, I have to say, I think the theme from this point on for a couple of the drivers here is going to be to save. Hey, speaking of save, what about SAVE22, our title sponsor here for our championship race? SAVE22 is a 501c3 organization dedicated to preventing suicide among veterans, active duty personnel, and first responders. Our unwavering mission extends to 4 critical pillars: shield, assist, volunteer, and educate. Visit them at save22.vet, and we thank them for pairing this title sponsor here through our Friday nights. It's been a fantastic season so far and a fantastic race to find out who will be crowned champion here on these Friday nights. Levi McCarty and Jake Ellingson both making up ground now on Mark Whitley, and this is about the same time last run, about 25 laps, whenever Whitley started getting the pressure put on from behind. So it doesn't seem like the 77 was able to find the adjustments needed. He's able to keep it up there, but I think it's going to come down to that defense once again that we saw earlier in the race from Mark Whitley. That's really going to be pivotal for him to take home the championship.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and you said it. McCarty and Ellingson both starting to close back in on this battle. And, you know, I kind of like Andy Karn's pick. I mean, Jake Ellingson, he seems like he's just kind of out there riding around. You know, he's just out there saving his tires, trying to bide his time. Maybe a little bit, I don't want to say uncharacteristic. We're used to seeing Jake get up on the wheel, though, and be aggressive, make those really strong moves, get up there and try to take spots away. But playing a little bit of the opposite way here this evening with just being patient. That's really what you need to do sometimes in these championship races. Right now, it is working out for both he and Levi McCarty. And we've already seen contact once this evening between our top two drivers. If they get close to one another again, I'm just saying. If you're Levi McCarty, you remember the block that Mark Whitley threw. If you're Mark Whitley, you remember McCarty putting the bumper to you. And you're both racing for a championship inside of 30 laps to go. Jake Ellingson might be the one to watch here if they get together.
Lincoln Tech truck rolling around here in P3. He's had a very solid playoff performance, looking to cap it off with a victory and a championship. I like that call. You know, the teammate, the 07 of Dravic, not really out of the race by any means, but that damage is still hindering him from being able to make any progress. Now 4.5 seconds behind our top three. And if it goes green to the end here, that is effectively taking the 07 out of the championship hope. But at the same time, you have to be that calm voice in your teammate's ear and just let him know, hey, keep it together here. These guys ahead of you, they're driving hard. I think that'd be exactly what is happening behind the scenes here. Is, like you said, Ellingson seems to be very content with holding on to this spot, but keeping it very close to take advantage once a mistake is made.
Yeah, and Levi McCarty is really starting to put the pressure on here. These last few laps, he has shown a ton of speed. Even when he got into the wall in 1 and 2, the last lap, as he does right there, I'm telling you, that looks almost like a Bristol bounce. He gets up there, bounces it off the wall, and helps it turn down the track, and he carries a ton of momentum. Not quite close enough to make the move down into turn number 3 that time. But he's at least peeking down there. He's getting Whitley to think about it just a little bit. Make him look in his mirrors. If you can get him thinking about it, you might be able to force him into a mistake. But as we've seen in this series all season long, that 77 is just really fast everywhere. He's really consistent. It is going to be a very tall order to try to force him into a mistake.
And Whitley, of course, looking for his second championship of the season, taking home the ARCA championship on Monday nights. So to cap it off with 2 in a week and 2 in a season, that would be, you know, top of the chart type of situation there. And definitely putting the rest of the league on notice with his contention tonight. Holding down, so far, he has obviously led the most laps of the night, taking the lead very early. Try to get my statistics up here, give you an exact number. Yeah, 83 laps led by the 77 so far tonight. Well over 90% of the race in control of Whitley, but it's not been easy. He has been battling for this position multiple times, and it's going to come to fruition again as McCarty and Ellingson battling for P2. Ellingson got to the inside, couldn't get the run off of turn number 2 to get around the 24. Man, they are inching closer and closer to that 77 every single lap. Keep an eye on that timing and scoring on the left-hand side of your screen as we're coming around here to make it lap 90, 21 to go in Phoenix.
Yeah, and you know, Logan, you also mentioned Mark Whitley trying to get his second championship of this fall season. He's also trying to go for a hat trick. I mean, he's got the Sunday Xfinity Series, our InVets Xfinity Series, that he is trying to win a championship in as well. So this would be number 2 out of the 3 that he needs. And right now, you mentioned it, he's in control, but he might have a new challenger to fend off here. As you can see, Jake Ellingson looking to the inside of the 24 of McCarty. And I've really got to wonder, has McCarty just made one too many touches to the wall? Is he starting to feel the effects of maybe some aero damage or just push the tires a little too hard? Ellingson able to get around for that number 2 position. So now we'll see what he has left in the tank if he can get up there and put some pressure on Mark Whitley.
A little over a half-second lead for the 77 of Whitley. Ellingson has a bit of room to go before he can start to challenge, but he's going to make up some ground there in 1 and 2. Whitley taking the high entry and kind of brings it down to the bottom of 4. Gets a good run off of the corner. Doesn't put any extra distance on the 27, but he's holding on to that half-second lead, and that's going to be very, very vital here as we are inside the 20 to go mark. This is that point in the race, Daniel. I said this is where I think things will start to really heat up.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is where if you get to that leader, it may be your only opportunity. If you get back to him, what are you willing to do for a championship? I think we already know the answer to that question based off of what we've seen earlier. But Ellingson, to that point, he hasn't been the one making the super aggressive moves. I mean, he did make a little bit of contact with Mark Whitley, but to be honest, I think that was more just Whitley getting loose and having to check up in front of him just a little bit, more so than Ellingson trying to, use the old chrome horn on him to get him out of the way. So just what would you do? I know what I would do if I was in that situation. It's elbows out at that point. Anything is on the table. So right now, though, the best friend that Mark Whitley may have is actually that 24 of McCarty. If he can get up there and start racing the 27 of Ellingson just a little bit again, may allow him to stretch that lead out. He's kept it pretty consistent around that 5 to 6 of a second mark.
This is the most lead that he's had in roughly the last 10 to 15 laps, just over 0.6 of a second. So it's going to be a game of finding the right line. Jacob Ellingson needs to make up quite a bit of ground here to go back into contention for that race lead. And Whitley can breathe a small sigh of relief for now. But definitely don't want to count your chickens before they hatch, Daniel. This is still very early to start celebrating.
Yeah, it definitely is. Taking a look out in the YouTube chat, I see Mama Ellingson out there. I can't watch. I know how you feel with that. I get that way with sports in general all the time, where I'm like, nope, I got to turn my head. I got to mute this. I can't do it. She's tuned in, watching her son go for that championship here this evening, currently in that number 2 position. Taking another look here on the live webcam that he's got pulled up with us here this evening. And, he doesn't look stressed at all. He looks like he's pretty relaxed behind the wheel of that 27. You can see him sawing on the wheel just a little bit there on corner exit and fighting that transition down across the dog leg, but he's looking pretty smooth behind the wheel right now.
That's all you have to do in this position right now. Stay calm, cool, and collected. He's got some breathing room off of the back bumper. McCarty back 0.4 of a second now. So all of these drivers here in the top 3 about equal distance from one another. Who is going to be able to make the move that counts? Lap 99 on the board. Just a few more to go until we crown our champion. Look at this, the 27 starting to make up some of that ground. He was at 0.6 of a second, now down to 4 as McCarty falls back just over a half second behind Ellingson.
Yeah, and it seems like Jake gets into the turn really, really well. That's where he's making up a lot of his ground, especially over here in 1 and 2. Just under 0.4 of a second entering the turn. This time a little bit more even, but still gets it down to almost 0.3. But Mark Whitley gets that really nice run on corner exit and able to stretch it out just a little bit. But overall, Ellingson is definitely catching. It's just the big question now is when you get into that dirty air bubble behind the 77, is he going to be able to find enough speed to get up there and try to mount that challenge? It seems like that 2 to 0.3 is where these trucks kind of start to stall out a little bit. But but slowly but surely, Ellingson is making that ground up.
10 to go in our championship race. It's all coming down to this. Who has what it takes? Will Mark Whitley take home championship number 2 of the season? Will Ellingson make his first championship in the SAVE22 Truck Series? Will Levi McCarty get redemption from 2 seasons ago and take home a championship himself? Brandon Wallace, in the meantime, has gotten around Patrick Dravick. Dravick falls back to 5th. Wallace now up to 4th in the 99 machine, but they are both well back behind this lead battle. All eyes at the front of the field as we come out of turn 4, make it lap 103 and 0.3 of a second separating our leaders.
Yeah, last time around, it looked like Mark Whitley missed the bottom just a little bit in 3 and 4, but he was able to make it work. He actually started to pull a gap on Ellingson off of turn number 4. And you can see there, I mean, they are almost identical on the lap time between the top 3. And now Levi McCarty even starting to close back in on these top 2 just a little bit here. As we close down on the end of this race, still just under 0.4 of a second between these leaders. Looks like maybe just one lap truck a little bit up the road here that they may have to contend with. Believe that's the 36 of George Jewell, but Shasta pointing out there in the YouTube chat earlier, he does have a little bit of damage and would have to think at this point, if they do get to him, they'll just pull over and let these guys settle it out amongst themselves.
Let's hear it in the chat, everybody. Who do you have? Our top 3. Mark Whitley with connection issues. He's going to get back on the track. Luckily, that could have been bad. Holds on to it. Let's see those picks out there in the YouTube chat. Who do you have out of these top 3 taking home the championship on the night? Whitley able to get a drive off of the corner, gets a little bit of distance put on Ellingson. But you can tell that 27 driving it extremely hard now. 0.5 of a second separate with 5 to go.
Yeah, now Levi McCarty is right up on the back bumper of Jake Ellingson. So Ellingson having to play just a little bit of defense here as well. That is just going to play into the hands of Mark Whitley in the 77. Levi McCarty had a little bit of a run off of turn number 2 there. Thought about diving to the inside, but he does not as of yet. 4 to go as McCarty into the wall just a bit there off of turn number 4. He's still able to carry a decent amount of momentum. Tries to get back to the 27. He's in the wall yet again. Running that high line that we've seen him use so much here this evening, but not able to find a way around just yet.
McCarty trying to get every ounce of speed out of that 24 machine, using every single inch of the racetrack available. Whitley into the wall out of turn 4. McCarty with a little bit of a slide on the transition down to the apron, doesn't pick up enough speed to get to the inside of Ellingson. It's looking like it might be the 77 with 3 to go at Phoenix. Man, this whole race could have gone so differently if that yellow flag had not come out. 2 to go at the line. 0.5, 0.6 of a second over Jacob Ellingson. Lap traffic just up ahead, but I don't think it's going to become a factor unless that dirty air really starts to come into play. I would imagine that George Jewell would get out of the way for these race leaders. Back down the backstretch into turns 3 and 4. White flag in the air. All bets are off from here. 1 to go for the SAVE22 Truck Series fall season. The last race of 2025 on these Friday nights. Down through turns 3 and 4. McCarty riding the wall. He's going to lose that ground to Ellingson. 2 more corners to go for race win of Mark Whitley and championship number 2 of the season. Checkered flag in the air out of turn 4. Your champion, the 77 of Mark Whitley with 106 laps led on the night.
Just a dominating performance, capping off a dominating season for the driver of that 77. And what do you know about that, Logan? Somebody broke the commentator's curse. So congrats to Mark Whitley on the championship. Congrats on the race win. And congrats for somebody finally breaking that damn curse that I've had.
We'll let the 77 make his way back around to the start-finish line. And here is the celebration. Let him burn it down on his second championship of the season. Your ARCA champion, your SAVE22 Truck Series champion, Mark Whitley. He winds down the celebration here. We're going to send it to a quick commercial break, get set up for the post-race, and of course, interviews with our top three in our championship winner, Mark Whitley. We'll be right back, everybody. Stick around.
Superior quality, ultimate protection, and the highest level of craftsmanship. We make our gloves for the hard worker that wakes up every morning and gives 110%. You deserve the highest quality protective gear that's going to work for you, day in, day out. We know it can be tough deciding what companies to trust for your hard-earned money. It's all in our name. We've mastered our craft to help you master yours. We make our gloves rugged, durable, and designed for you. Whatever the job is, we have you covered. We are your glove station.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. InVets can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. InVets can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about InVets, visit us at invets.org today.
JS Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
And we're back with championship results in Phoenix. Let's run through it here before we get to our interviews with our top three. Take a look at our results of the night. Mark Whitley obviously taking home the race win and the championship here. Started P2, led 106 laps out of 110. A dominating race from the 77 team, but it did not come easy. A great battle from the 27 of Jacob Ellingson. Started out in P4, ran up here in the top 4 the entire night. Just falls a little bit short. The 24 of Levi McCarty takes home the last step on the podium. Started out in 3rd, finished in 3rd, but again, another fantastic battle with our race leader. And a couple instances of contact with our race leader. Brandon Wallace in the 99, a not so terrible night for him. Comes home P4 after starting in the back half of the top 10. Michael Seymour moves up 5 spots from the 10th spot to the top 5 in the 37. Charles Abert starts out in 5th, rounds out in 6th for the 17. And the 07 of Patrick Drabick, who set the pole on the night, falls back to P7 with damage after bringing out our one and only caution of the night. Chuck Pegleg Phelps moves up 3 spots from 11th to 8th in the 75 team. George Jewell, another driver that ended up with damage but remained on the lead lap, does fall back 3 positions from where he started but takes home 9th in the race tonight. With last but not least in the top 10, the 14 of Chance Taylor takes it home.
And finishing the last car in the field is Matt Knights in the 11th position. Had some connection issues and ended up parking it as a result. Samuel Yosef was running race control tonight along with Jamie Lipke. We want to make sure to give them a shout out as well. Not only for tonight, but for the work that they put in through the entirety of this season with running, as you've said multiple times this season, Logan, the most thankless job in iRacing.
Absolutely. The most thankless job in iRacing, the most thankless job in any league aspect here. So big shout out to anybody that runs the race control here over at Goat Locker. We thank you for everything you do that goes unrecognized. But we have interviews to get to with our top 3. We're going to start out with our 3rd place finisher. We're going to save the championship winner for last. Levi McCarty will join us up here in the booth. Levi, you've got Logan and Daniel in the V-Speed booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, you had great success last time we were here in Phoenix back in season 8. You took home the win. Obviously, things a little bit different here tonight. Now, we noticed you had a great battle, a little bit of contact there with Mark Whitley in the first run of the race, and you stayed right there the entire time. What changed from the first half of the race to the second half of the race?
Yeah, I guess a weird caution. Yeah, I guess the 07 self-spun for like the 1600th time, so I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, if we were able to run that out, I felt a lot better about how it was unfolding. Even running in 3rd, I feel like I could undercut those guys and get out front and then, just do what he was doing, I guess. Yeah, and then towards the end of the run there, just not having enough left in the tank, and yeah.
Well, I know it's definitely not the way you wanted to end up the season, but still a strong run overall and a strong season overall. We saw you running that high groove. It looked like you were doing it a little bit better than really anybody else all evening. We did see you get into the wall a few times. Were you dealing with any damage from that throughout the race, or was the truck still kind of handling fine after that?
No, minimal damage. You could kind of get up on the wall, and as long as you hit it square, you'd be all right. But yeah, just at a loss for words. Just really disappointed in how the race unfolded, and yeah, just how it goes, I guess.
An unfortunate ending to 2025 here for you, Levi, but a fantastic season as a whole. Who do you have to say thanks to for your race here at Phoenix and just the season overall?
Yeah, fun season. Appreciate everything about this truck series. Fairfield Auto Group, Fairfield Motorsports, B&H Racing, iRacing, MK Fire Design, Sim Motion, and SAVE22. Thanks for for coming aboard for the premium or the Premier Series and putting it on. Yeah, we'll be back with a vengeance. Hopefully, we've got a lot to work on, and we're gonna get one of these at some point.
Well, as long as you keep showing up, Levi, you're always in contention, in my opinion, for race wins and, of course, championships. So definitely keep your head up. We'll see you next season and maybe right back here in the championship four if things go well. That'll move us right along to our second place finisher. And I'm going to preface this with, Jake Ellingson's had a lot of connection issues with Discord here lately. So we're going to try this out. I know he had issues over the last couple of weeks, but here we go. We're going to give it a shot. Jake Ellingson, you've got Logan and Daniel here in the V-Speed booth. You have a copy. It does not appear. Oh, there's a little bit. Can we get anything out of this internet?
Going, guys.
Well, we're getting a little bit of something coming through. Doing great up here, Jake. You had a fantastic race yourself. You stayed up in the top four. There it goes. He is completely disconnected now from Discord. So we'll try to maybe get a word with him here, but we're going to move on to our race winner and overall champion here of the SAVE22 series, Mark Whitley, a two-time champion this season. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
What a race you had. 106 out of 110 laps led. You started P2, made your way up to the front as soon as possible, and never looked back, aside from that big block down the backstretch that nearly ended up turning the 77 machine with the battle between yourself and our third place finisher, Levi McCarty. Tell me a little bit about that battle and what was going through your mind as that pressure seemed to be really being applied by the drivers behind you.
Yeah, we really started the first run, in past races here, it seemed like, you need to downshift in the corners to get a good run off. And so that's what I was doing in the beginning of the race. And it was working pretty decent, but I feel like it kind of hurt the rears a little bit that first run. So Levi and them were able to kind of like get up to me there, off of two sometimes just because I was a little bit sideways off of two. And this track, it's really dirty air sucks here. Like it sucks everywhere, but it really sucks here. So I knew like come hell or high water, I needed to keep the lead if I wanted to have a chance because it was just so hard to pass, especially at the front like that. So I felt like I owed him one anyway. So I guess he wanted to make sure he didn't want to yeet me twice. So I appreciate him not completely sending me like he did Darlington, but it's just one of those things. Is like we're going for a championship, and you're just throwing everything you got at everybody. And there was a couple of times where I thought, oh crap, we're not going to make it. And a couple other times it's like as soon as I take a breath, I'm like, okay, I think we're good now. Not even a mistake, just miss your mark by half a foot, and it's like, oh crap, they're right back on you. So it was like you had to be on your game the whole run. And second run, I changed up how I was doing. I didn't downshift. I feel like it helped the tires a little bit on the end of the run. And Jake was, he got around Levi and started to really pressuring me there toward the end. And I just tried to make sure I kept hitting my marks. And I think eventually he just burned his stuff up and he started falling back a little bit. And I don't know, last like 4 or 5 laps, I don't know if I took a breath because I was just trying to make sure we got back to that white flag because I didn't want to have a green, white checkered or anything. And I saw them start to battle. So at that point, I was like, all right, as long as I don't completely screw this up, I should have it pretty, in the basket. But it was a tough race all night. I mean, I might have led that many laps, but it was definitely not that one-sided. I never could take a breath. It was those guys were pushing me to be my best, and all season long, come out as the champion is great, but like those guys deserved it just as much. So hats off to them.
Yeah, that lead did not come easy for you by any means. Daniel, I think you had something for our champion.
Yeah. So first off, thank you for finally breaking my commentator's curse because you were my pre-race pick to win the championship. So, that's been the running theme here of my time as a commentator in Goat Locker is that it seems like that usually doesn't work out too well for anybody that I pick. So thanks for breaking that. But, overall, not just in this series, but you are on a record-setting pace throughout all of Goat Locker this season. You are, you've won one championship already over in ARCA. You've got your second one this season over here. In this series, you actually tied the single season Oval Series record for wins in a season with your 8th. And you've got a chance to go for your 3rd championship this season on Sunday night. So just what's it mean to be able to go for like all of these different records that you're going for and just kind of the history that you're making here in Goat Locker this season?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no better way to introduce yourself to make a splash. So I feel like we made a pretty good splash in the summer series, and then just carrying it over until the full blown, fall season here. A lot of tracks I've been good at over in ARCA, over here in the trucks. Xfinity, we haven't been as lucky with race wins. We finally got one last week, so it's just one of those things. You just coming here running. So I just love running all these different vehicles. Like I know a lot of people, they like to stick with whatever they are good at and whatever, but I just like to run as many different kinds of cars as possible because I feel like it makes me better. Learning how to drive everything, learning how to adapt. It's just one of those things where it's like we've been on a run, been on a roll. That's brought us 2 championships already. Hopefully it can bring us a 3rd. If not, even if we wreck out lap 1 Sunday, it's, this whole season between all 3 series. It's been one hell of a ride. So it's like, I can't really complain, especially with already 2 championships. So Sunday's just going to be the icing on the cake. Sunday's going to be just as hard, if not harder than this, because this was one of my better tracks. So I felt a little bit more confident coming in. Sunday, I'm not so sure going to Atlanta, but, it's just one of those things. You just got to take the momentum when it comes and just hope it doesn't end.
Well, keep that momentum rolling as best as possible. Mark Whitley, you're no stranger to the question, at least in this series. Who do you have to say thanks to for your race win at Phoenix, the season as a whole, and most importantly, your 2nd championship and your 1st in the SAVE22 Vet Truck Series?
Yeah, a big shout out to all the league sponsors here. Like I wouldn't be here without me or the league. Nobody would be here without all their support. So, like I said, Lincoln Tech, SAVE22, Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, Jam Printing and Promotions, MK Fire Designs, like you guys at V-Speed, Alexander's PC, Glove Station, everybody that helps make this league what it is. Like I said, it wouldn't be here without them, and then obviously I wouldn't be here either. So I really, it's great to be a part of this league and all the sponsors involved. And then I have my own personal ones. Brantley over at Harpoon Designs me great paint schemes every week. He's been wanting to make me a new one, and I've liked these last couple ones he's made so much, I haven't let him make a new one yet. So I think he's been annoyed with me, but I love these paint schemes he's made so much. So go check him out at harpoondesign.com to get you a cool looking car like this. Other sponsor, Jawa.gg. It's the holiday season. Whether you're looking for, an upgrade for your PC or a whole new rig, they got you covered over there. They're the #1 online gaming marketplace for gamers by gamers. No scalping, no markups. Like they've had some really good deals on graphics cards, straight from them last couple weeks. So check them out, Jawa.gg. And then all the people that tune in at home, Vector, Daryl, he was hanging out with us in the race, trying to, just give support. I always appreciate, everybody tuning into these races, making it feel more real. It's sim racing, so it's not real racing per se, but that little bit extra makes it feel just a little bit more real. So appreciate all of them. And I guess one final shout out to all the other guys that made the Final Four. Like I said, they kept me honest. I think all of us, you could have said all of us deserved the win, and they just, I couldn't take my foot off the gas. I had to, sit there and bust my butt. So shout out to all of them for putting up a great race there.
Well, shout out to yourself for putting on the best race you possibly could at the most perfect timing possible. Your championship of the SAVE22 Vet Series. Mark Whitley, everybody. Congratulations, my friend. Get to celebrating.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
And I have, in the meantime, gotten a hold of Jake Ellingson. It does look like his internet has completely failed him. So unfortunately, we will not be able to follow up with an interview of our Lincoln Tech truck driver. But a great race nonetheless coming from the 27. And again, just keeping himself in contention for that championship. Unfortunately, falls just a little bit short. That's going to do it for tonight. Daniel, we had a fantastic race on the board. What are your final thoughts of Phoenix, the championship, and the season as a whole?
you know, I kind of said this on Wednesday night when when Jake Reeves and I did the Next Gen Series finale over there. Just great racing all season. I mean, these drivers are showing why they got the invite to come and race in one of the Premier Series. You know, just the one true caution on the evening. It just all season long, these drivers have made our jobs easy, giving us plenty to talk about up here, giving us a lot of great side-by-side racing. And it's just, it's for me, it's an honor to be able to commentate these races, especially with the greater mission that Goat Locker has, everything they do for the veterans, the first responders. It's so awesome to see everything that Pat and Jamie and all the admins put into not only this series, but just the league as a whole. The community that they've built over here. So I'm happy to be a small part of it and get to come up here and, you know, sometimes stumble over words, sometimes screw over drivers by picking them, but, you know, to be my race win. But at least we ended the season on a high note with my broadcaster curses, that we broke that. So maybe when we come back in the spring, maybe Mark Whitley will have finally broken the broadcaster curse for good, where I don't have to worry about somebody getting out the pitchforks when I make them my pick to win.
2026 will be a brand new year for you, Daniel. It's been a blast here in the fall season of 2025 with you, my friend. Looking forward to more in the future. A big shout out to all of our sponsors here for Goat Locker. Of course, SAVE22, our title sponsor of these Friday night truck races. Glove Station, Lincoln Tech, Cruisin' Classics, Nasty's Restaurant and Bar, SAVE22, MK Fire Designs, InVets, and of course, Jam Printing and Promotion. For everybody behind the scenes at Goat Locker, especially Patrick Drabick, Jamie Barkas, all of the other admins, race controllers that don't get the recognition that they deserve. For everybody behind the scenes at V-Speed, Adam Baker, of course, Bradley Cooper running the production truck tonight, Morgan Cook behind the scenes with Eddie Smith, kind of running things over here for the broadcasters at Goat Locker. Daniel Cunningham, it's been a pleasure, my friend. We'll see you in 2026. My name is Logan Threlkeld. Happy holidays, stay safe, and we'll see you next year.
I hope you're ready. This is going to be exciting.
Here we go, career starts up, we go. Green flag is out and we're underway.
Just a few laps into this. Oh, the 37's getting loose. Oh, and he saves it. Oh, they're going 3 wide.
We've got a 5-way fight for the win of this race, coming to 4 laps to go.